Simple and Out is an amazing digital in-out board with features that allow you to manipulate other people's statuses, change the past, schedule statuses, run reports, and even receive things like notifications. With all of this power and with all of these features, and with more being added all the time, Simple and Out needs to make sure that users have the proper permission to do the things you want them to be able to do and to not do the things that you prohibit them from doing. So in order to do that, we have roles, which is a system of permissions. Every user has a role, and that role can dictate what users can and cannot do. And so today we're going to discuss roles. We're going to discuss how to set up roles, and we're going to show you how to edit a user so that you can see a user have the role changed. So right here, we're starting in Simple and Out. I'm in Settings, and over in Settings, I'm in Roles. And here we can see the roles. These are the four roles that we'll start you with. But you could change these roles. You can add more roles. You can even delete some of these roles as well. It's entirely up to you and your use cases. Today, for the purpose of this video, let's assume that we want to have some users who can manipulate billing, who have the ability to, for example, change the credit card on file or even print off receipts. Now, we have a special permission for that, but we don't want to give that to just everybody. So in this case, let's add a brand new role just for that purpose. So we're going to start by clicking Add Role. Now, the first thing we'll have to do when we're adding a role is we'll have to give this role a name. I'm going to call this accounting. And that's what we'll call this billing role. And I could choose here whether I wish to make this role the default. If this is the default role, then every time we go to add a new user, this will just be pre-selected. If this is not the default role, you can still use it, but we'll obviously pre-select a different role for you. Okay, so as you can see, just from a quick scroll here, we have all kinds of levers that you can pull on here to craft a proper permission policy for your users. And at the time of this video, these are the ones we have. But by the time you're seeing this video, we may even have more, as we're always adding features or we're always adding new permissions to help you properly manage and govern those features. So let's just start near the top here. So right away, we have which users you can see. A lot of these permissions fall into two camps. We either have permissions that can be turned on and off, in this case, like viewing status update times, or we have permissions that are not binary, but I guess the word would be trinary. And in other words, there are different states they can be in. In this case, can I view all the users on the board? Can I only view the users that are in the same groups that I'm in? Or can I hide the users? At its bare minimum, we can just take the board away from certain users who may be either, maybe they're interns or maybe they're outside third-party contractors where you want to be able to manage their status on the board. You just don't want them to be able to log in and see all your other users. Simply Now has you covered. In this case, we just want to allow people to see all the users. Now, in this case, can I manage the current status? Users can manage their current status. If they cannot manage their current status, as this little indicator here would indicate, they would have to be using a tablet you would set up in a common area using one of our two different tablet applications, either Front Desk or Time Clock. There are separate videos on both of those. In this case, we're going to leave this alone and whether or not you can manage the status of others. And again, you'll notice this is another one of those where you can make this group aware. You could choose to only allow managers, for example, to update the current status of people in their groups and not allow them to do it for people in other groups. Great for large organizations that have a lot of departments, maybe, or hierarchy for you. So we do have a separate video on groups where you can change a user's group. Users can belong to more than one group. We covered that over there. Status history. And so you can choose who can see other people's status histories, who can manage status history. Again, whether you can reach back in time and make changes. I'm not going to touch any of them for the purposes of this video. And reporting. You could choose whether or not you could run reports against your users, any users at all, or again, users within your group. Now I'm going to fly down here. We have scheduled statuses similar to past statuses. Can you plant a status update to happen in the future? We have an entire another video on scheduled statuses. Again, for the purpose of billing here, I'm going to leave this alone in its current default state, which I think works out just fine. And then we have special levers on notifications. And these are, I guess, binary levers. You can either use notifications or cannot. This works out as well. Again, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to leave this one alone. But down here on the very bottom, this is the lever I was after. Manage billing details. And if I hover over this little thing, it'll say these users can change the company's plan, credit card, and invoice email information. So this is exactly what I'm after for these accounting users. So I'm going to check this box. and now they have this extra permission. And as you can see, manage groups here. I'll spend a moment talking about this. You can choose which users can manage group assignments for all the users around. What makes this super important, of course, is that these users can manage groups. If you have permissions that are group aware, then by changing a user's group, of course, you could change who they can see or who they maybe can interact with or use some of their permissions on. So you want to make sure that you only hand that permission out to users that you trust implicitly. Okay, so we're ready to go here. Let's go ahead and click Create Role. And there you go. We can see we have an accounting role here now. We don't have any users in it yet, but we have this role. We're all set and we're ready to go. Now, before I leave the role manager here, I wanted to take a special moment just to look at the administrator role. The administrator role here, which you can notice we have some users in, I'm going to click Edit. And here you will notice most of these permissions are disabled. You can't change them. And the reason why is because this administrator role is special. This is a special role where most of the permissions cannot be edited due to the fact that you need to always have administrators, right? Users who have the ability to do things like adding users, managing groups, etc. So this is a special role. There are some levers on this role you can control, things like some of the notifications, status updating times, whether or not you want to be able to see when users made status updates on the board, or whether or not you just want to see statuses with no times. So there are some things you can manage, but for the most part, this one is fixed in stone. You also need to always have at least one user that's an administrator. And for the obvious hit by the bus problem, we always recommend you have more than one user. That way, if somebody quits or retires or is on maternity leave, you have the ability to have somebody else being able to make changes to your board, and so you don't get stuck. Now, if you ever have any ambiguity about which users are in which role, we do have a handy show mechanism you can use right here. This will look it up and show us, in this case, these are the 4 users who are currently administrators, including me, logged in as Sarah Smith today. Okay, so now that you've gotten your our taste of roles, how can we assign people to these roles? How can I assign my billing users? So for that, we need to edit the user. So we're going to go back to the board. To do that, I'm just going to click on the name of the organization way up here in the upper left. And now we have all of our users who are in the board. Now let's assume for the purposes of this, let's just say our uh, vice president of operations here, Samantha Jensen. Let's say she is in accounting. She's the one we want to have billing permission. So I'll click on Samantha Jensen. And then I'm going to click on Edit User. And again, because I'm an administrator, I can edit users. And so here you can see, here's our role. And here I can change this role to anything I want, or in this case, our new accounting role. And if I forget what the role is and is not capable of, we do have a handy little information button right here. This will fold down and you can read through here and see what the users can do and what the users are prohibited from doing. And so based on this, we know that we want this accounting role. I'll click Update, and that's all there is to it. So now Samantha Jensen now has the billing permission. If Samantha logs into simpleandout.com, she'll be able to manage our credit card and receipts and all of that information without having to bother the rest of us. So that's roles. It's a powerful permissioning system that allows you to use levers to do things like controlling what users can do, controlling what users can see, and even with our new group aware permissions, controlling what users can and cannot see and can and cannot do based on their groups with all within Simple and Out.